At 11:18 p.m., my wife, Clara, sent me a message that changed everything. "Don't wait for me tonight." We had been married for 9 years, and lately she had become distant, checking her phone and finding excuses to stay out. I asked where she was going, but she replied only, "I need space." I stared at the message for several minutes. Instead of arguing, I quietly looked around our house. Every photograph, every gift, and every memory suddenly felt different. I realized I had spent months pretending not to notice the distance between us. That night, I finally stopped pretending. Clara had promised she would be home before midnight, but midnight passed without a call. I sat alone in the living room, listening to the clock. Around 1 a.m., I heard a car outside, but it wasn't hers. I checked my phone again. Nothing. I didn't know whether she was with friends, co-workers, or someone else. Normally, I would have called repeatedly, demanding answers. This time, I didn't. I opened the drawer containing our important documents and started organizing everything. Our house, finances, and belongings had become tangled together over years. For the first time, I began separating my life from hers. At 2 a.m., I received another message from Clara. "I'm staying out. Don't wait up." There was no apology and no explanation. I replied, "Okay." Then I contacted my attorney, who had helped my brother through a divorce. I explained the situation and asked what steps I could legally take before making any decisions. He advised me not to act impulsively or remove anything that legally belonged to Clara. That mattered. I wasn't interested in revenge. I wanted a clean separation if our marriage was ending. By sunrise, I had made arrangements to stay elsewhere temporarily while the legal process began. The next morning, Clara finally called. She sounded annoyed rather than concerned. "Why aren't you answering me?" she asked. I told her I had been busy. She said she might stay another night with a friend. I simply said, "Do what you need." She became suspicious and asked whether something was wrong. I said everything was fine. After hanging up, I met my attorney and began documenting our finances. We agreed that nothing would be removed without legal authorization. I also arranged for my personal belongings to be moved into a new apartment. By evening, my new place was ready. For the next 2 days, I barely heard from Clara. She sent occasional messages asking whether I was angry. I never accused her of cheating because I didn't know the truth. Then, on the third evening, she called and said, "I'm coming home tonight." I replied, "All right." She expected the house to look exactly as she had left it. Instead, she would find my clothes gone, my office empty, and our shared photographs carefully packed away. I had not destroyed anything. I had simply removed what belonged to me and left everything else untouched. The difference was deliberate. At 9:36 p.m., Clara opened the front door. The house was unusually quiet. She walked into the living room and immediately realized something had changed. The shelves that once displayed our wedding photographs were nearly empty. My desk was gone. My clothes had disappeared from the bedroom. She called my name repeatedly, but I wasn't there. Then she found a folder on the kitchen table containing copies of our financial records, my attorney's contact information, and a letter. Her hands began shaking before she even opened it. For the first time, she understood that my silence had been a decision, not weakness. The letter was short. I wrote that I loved the woman I had married, but I couldn't continue living in a marriage where I was treated like an afterthought. I told Clara I hadn't taken anything that belonged solely to her, and I hadn't damaged our home. I had simply accepted her request not to wait for her. She called me immediately. This time, her voice was completely different. She cried and asked where I was. I told her I was safe and staying at my apartment. Then she admitted something I had suspected for months. She had been seeing another man. Clara said his name was Owen. She claimed the relationship had started emotionally before becoming physical. She told me she had planned to leave our marriage eventually but hadn't known how to tell me. I listened quietly. She said she never expected me to leave first. That sentence hurt more than anything else. I asked why she had told me not to wait. She said she wanted freedom for one night without facing questions. I told her she had received exactly what she asked for. She cried and said she had never intended to lose me permanently. I answered, "Neither did I." The The divorce process began a few weeks later. Clara tried to repair the marriage, but I knew trust had been broken too deeply. We met several times with counselors and lawyers, discussing finances, property, and the future. I never insulted Owen or publicly exposed Clara. I didn't need revenge. The best thing I could do was leave with my dignity intact. Eventually, Clara admitted that she had mistaken excitement for happiness. She said she regretted treating our marriage like something she could return to whenever she wanted. I believed her regret, but forgiveness did not require reconciliation. Months later, I returned to our old neighborhood to collect one final box. Clara was standing on the porch. We spoke calmly, without anger. She asked whether I hated her. I told her no. I had finally realized that hatred would only keep me connected to the past. She asked whether I regretted leaving everything behind that night. I smiled and said, "No. You told me not to wait for you, and I finally listened." I walked away carrying my last box, leaving the house behind. Losing my marriage broke my heart, but choosing peace gave me a future I couldn't see before.